So are you Mexican or are you native? So we're dealing with lateral oppression, and then we're dealing with just straight up haters and trolls. So to decide to do this when we could be talking about X, Y, and Z, we're honoring our ancestors. Just this conversation.
Hello everybody. So as you know, I've had quite the time here at Pero Like learning about my culture, Latinidad, the language, everything like that. There's been a part of my family history I haven't shared because it's something I'm always constantly learning about. We don't have a lot of information about it just because of the history of how indigenous people have been treated throughout the years, and that is my Yaqui roots. My family is from Arizona, but they originated in Sonora, Mexico. My grandmother and I recently had a conversation about her Yaqui grandmother and wanting to learn more information because her dad wanted to find out more information, but at the time there just was such limited access. There wasn't the internet.
It didn't make sense.
So then how do you spell Yucupicio? Because that's with the U, Y, O.
Y-O.
But this one says Y-U.
What does this one say? This is her death certificate. She died October the 13th, 1931. And here it says that she was married to my grandpa.
So they got married later on?
Yeah. A quien le puso por nombre Gregorio Yucupicio, nacido en este pueblo ayer a las 5 pasada mediano, hijo natural de la señora Nestora Yucupicio, del mismo domicilio, soltera. See, it says that she's single. And she goes, mayor de edad.
So I wanted to take it upon myself to like give them all of this information back, and I wanted to document that. But then I quickly realized that not everything needs to be documented for the public to see because this is a very special, sacred part of my family, and I want to be mindful about this topic and conversation. I don't want to take up space whatsoever.
This is my friend Tomas. He is a Phoenix native just like me, a film director, writer, and visual artist. His work is absolutely stunning, and so is his family. As I learned more about my own native roots, I wanted to have this conversation with him about the intersectionality between Latinidad and indigeneity. So I hope you guys enjoy and meet Tomas.
All right, so I'm here with Tomas. I wanted you to be in this video because I think you've always had this like great perspective and pride for, you know, your indigenous roots. Just the work that he does also is very meaningful and passionate and artful, and you know, it's inspired me as a creator, and also as I discover more of my like indigenous roots, I look to people like you to kind of see like, okay, cool, like what are they doing? Like how are they honoring their roots and everything? So
thank you for all those kind words. Eshe Cuiraba. My name is Tomas Carmelo Amaya. I am Yoeme and Ashwi on my mom's side and Raramuri on my dad's side. I'm currently in Phoenix, Arizona, the 602, which is the ancestral homelands of our O'odham relatives. When we speak about indigeneity, I think about expression. For me, seeing you as a person that thrives in like comedy and storytelling, I feel like it's there too. And so there's a saying that, you know, real recognizes real, and I just think that it's a beautiful thing to connect on different levels, like either through our art, but also through this really important part of our identity, which is indigeneity.
you know, like question people are like, what are you? Like, what do you usually say?
When I'm asked about how I identify, I say that I'm indigenous, and I definitely mention, like I did in my introduction, the tribes that I'm born for. And I feel like that's really important. And I encourage, as we look at our family histories, if we're able to identify those parts of ourselves, either through oral history or different kinships and relationships, at least for me, in that journey of, I would say, healing from the lasting impacts of intergenerational and historical trauma, I feel much more empowered to say, I am Ashwi, I am Yoeme, you know, I am Raramuri. But I understand too that to be able to say that requires a certain level of commitment and appreciation and dialogue and connection with the peoples. There's a certain level of privilege that could be involved with just saying I am this or I am that. For me, it's like, if I'm saying these things, it's because I'm showing up. You know, I'm in community, I'm supporting community through thick and thin, and in moments of joy, you know, going to feasts and celebrations. And so I personally identify as an indigenous person. I'm Mexican. My parents were born in Ciudad Juarez. That to me is important in identity, but I'd like to go further because I can and say the tribes to which I belong. And that's important for me personally. I am respectful and mindful of the fact that because of different levels of disconnection from our cultural roots, not everybody can do that. And so instead of being like, oh, dang, look at you, you can't name the tribes, like, and shame somebody, I feel like that's some problematic, you know.
It's bullshit.
Damn it.
How did you grow up honoring your roots or like coming to terms with, you know, your indigenous history and everything, and how do you honor that today?
I think it goes back to my elders in my family. Especially I was very close to my maternal grandmother as well as my paternal grandmother. So from the grandmother's side, there's that kind of deep connection and celebration of our matriarchs. And matriarchs within my family are highly regarded as culture bearers and knowledge bearers. And so I think being a little boy and growing up basically right next to my abuelita Paula, that was really important for me to see her hold space for other Native people. She was someone that would go to ceremony often and that would be invited to speak. She was also a traditional healer. That visibility alone and that feeling that it is something of value in our family was really important. But I will say this, growing up in West Phoenix, you know, my block was basically almost half Black relatives, and then the other half was like different immigrant communities from Latin America. Being part of that environment, it did make you feel a certain type of way with like, so are you Mexican or are you Native? And then like all these different types of lateral oppression that was honestly, you know, as a young person, it could weigh heavy on you. And the effects of how, you know, maybe social media or how our peer groups can put pressure on us to claim something, to be something, is something that I definitely like talking about head on, because, you know, our youth are precious. I think it's really important to amplify the beauty that exists in being that. How can we support each other in this journey to be connected to our people and ultimately to the land?
What are your kind of views on like the intersectionality of being indigenous and being, you know, Latino also?
There's something that we need to talk about, and that's the fact that in the so-called United States, there's this concept of what it is to be Native American or indigenous, a lot of tokenization of what it means. When we go into Latin American countries, and I can speak about experiences in Mexico, when I think of Mexico, when I think of how my grandmother, Paula, grew up, and that her mother-in-law would put her down or attempt to by calling her India, that's hurtful. And the way I kind of flip that around is like, I give thanks to my grandmother, to my abuelita Paula, for standing tall in her indigeneity and being like, you know, this is a gift to my family. There's so much more to talk about than just the resilience, or to define ourselves by the fact that we survived, you know, colonization, or we continue to thrive. Sometimes it just feels like, let's just talk about how dope we are. Like, as we navigate these spaces and embrace our indigeneity, leave room for that humor. It's okay. You know, we're not perfect. I don't feel comfortable with this. All right, let's talk about that then. You know, oh, this is a boundary. Oh, I bet. Let's move through it. And we can laugh, and then I bet you we can cry about it. But if at the end of our conversation or interaction, it's like, damn, I feel more rooted, I feel more connected, then I think we've done something good for this world. Every facet of what we call society, there is indigenous excellence, and you are a part of that. I'm looking forward to seeing you know, do your thing. Chokes me up because, damn, seeing you go on this journey to ask these questions and to reach out to me, you know, is really important. I think it goes both ways when we are vulnerable, and just, you know, celebrating you too as a leader, as a matriarch. Something that needs to be said. You know,
don't do it, Tomas. Don't do it.
It's like a risk. It's a risk to take, but and when I say risk, it's like Because like we said, there's like the lateral oppression is real. So we're dealing with lateral oppression, and then we're dealing with just straight up haters and trolls. So to decide to do this when we could be talking about X, Y, and Z, we're honoring our ancestors. Just this conversation.
Follow, like.